we're live!
Live from the social distancing network of the world. We are the hub of all of it. We are on screen. We're pretty close to each other. But truly, we're about 30 miles from each other. So, we're working out. Me and this monkey, though, we're not social distancing.
No.
Since I can't have Lee here in person, I'm going to have this instead. At least I feel like I've got somebody here with me.
Yeah. Well, we are the Trauma Guys, and we are back. I'm Lee.
I'm Fayaz.
All right, man. So how was your day so far?
You know what, man? It's pretty good. Sun's been out last couple of days. It's a little humid, a little hot, but, you know, it's nice to see the sun out, man. You know, with all this COVID stuff going on, right? It's nice to see some sunshine. You know, maybe that'll enlighten some people, and you know they won't freak out so much. And you know, man, I have a good feeling the world's gonna get back to normal here pretty soon.
Yeah, me too. So we are going to go over and review the Dark Side of the Ring since they've been doing pretty good for us. We're going to go over this last episode, number 3, the Brawl for All. So if you don't know what that is, in 2000, well, yeah, I think it was about 2000.
It was right around there.
No, it was like
early 2000s.
You know, yeah. Actually, it was kind of like 98, 99-ish. WWE decided they're going to do this Brawl for All. That's where they got these guys. They picked 16 guys, and they're going to put boxing gloves on them and have them really fight, instead of do what they do as professional wrestlers. All right. So they wanted to find out who was the toughest guy. So basically,
this all basically centered around Bradshaw. Remember?
Yeah.
Because he was running into the locker room talking a bunch of smack, saying, "Hey, look, if this was real, man, I would beat every single one of you guys." So, you know, that's what kind of inspired Vince Russo to say, "Hey, why don't we do this? Why don't we make it so that, you know, we actually put boxing gloves on them, and you know, let's see who the toughest guy is."
Yeah, and I get there are some tough guys in that sport. You got to take a lot of punishment, and there are some guys that can probably fight and do other things, but you know, a lot of them, their bodies are meant to do other things. They're not training to do this type of fighting.
Correct.
So being able to, that's two totally different things and two totally different styles.
Right.
So like most of the guys who have fought in both or have actually fought and do professional wrestling at the same time, a lot of times if they're doing the other, they're training just for that, and they're not doing the other. Because it's two totally different things that's going to happen to your body. And what I see is that, you know, yeah, it seemed like maybe a cool idea for a second, but at the same time, it screwed a lot of people up. It really, you know, it crashed some people's their entire careers. You know, were nothing anymore because of it, and it put a lot of guys on the shelf that some of them were beginning to start to get some type of push.
Yeah, that's true. You know, and even though what they did was they used a lot of the wrestlers that they don't do a lot with. Like, for example, you didn't see any major superstars, right? Jumping in there. You kind of saw middle of the line guys, and that's what they even said, that's what they're using, right? But them going in there, man, and you know, it took me back because I kind of remember when all that was going on. So yeah. It took me back, and I always thought, you know, what are these guys doing, man? They don't even know how to, you know. It was basically like, you remember the old Tough Man contests?
Yeah, that's basically what it was a Tough Man contest.
Where they would just put gloves on anybody, and those guys couldn't really fight, but they just got in there and just freaking threw down. You know, that's basically what they did. But you're talking about pretty big guys, you know, pretty big, athletic. They're athletic, you know, performance-enhanced actors is basically what wrestlers are, right? And they go out and they put this show on, and they do it, you know, 200, some of them 200-something days out of the year, some of them, you know, almost every day out of the year. and in different cities all the time. And, for them to do something like this, I mean, it's a little bit different, Not to say they weren't getting concussions and getting hurt doing the wrestling, but, when it's a work versus you getting punched in the mouth or in the face or in the eye, repeatedly, whatever it is, or in the head repeatedly, like some of those guys got hit in the back of the head, plus they could take each other down. That's a little different. It's different, It's different when you're not prepared for it.
Exactly.
If that makes any sense.
Yeah. Well, and like they said throughout a whole lot of it is that they honestly, they were going to be like, well, whoever wins this is going to get this push to face Stone Cold Steve Austin at I think it was SummerSlam or something to that effect. SummerSlam or Royal Rumble, one of those. But at the same time, the problem is that these guys, if they would have really taken it seriously and they would have said, look, you guys are just going to train to get ready for this fight, and then we're going to do it. Instead, they're like, no, just come in, throw some gloves on, let's see who can fight.
Right.
You know what I mean?
And that's basically how they wrote it, right? It wasn't a deal where they were going to train to fight. It was another spectacle to them. I think they just didn't realize the impact it would have.
Yeah.
Basically.
So it really messed up a lot of people. And I know during this that their whole plan was they thought Dr. Death Steve Williams was going to be the guy.
Right.
And I remember Dr. Death Steve Williams from when I was a kid, wrestling, and this was kind of towards the end of his career starting to go anyway when they brought him in. And I know that he was JR's boy. Yeah. And from the get-go, he was JR's boy, and they didn't want him to lose at all. They thought, oh, Dr. Death is definitely going to win this. And they weren't expecting, Gunn to go out there and just do what he did, Bart Gunn. They were expecting it to be, one of these other guys. Right. To definitely take it over,
Right.
So,
and he went out there, and Vince Russo talked about how, they went through each match and what everybody did, and, how everybody got taken out, and the severity of the punishment, things like that, and then they got to the final, and how then he went back to how he centered it around. He centered it around Bradshaw. He wanted to see Bradshaw get knocked out, and he couldn't wait. He couldn't wait for it to happen, and it did. Inevitably, it ends up doing it. But going back to the Dr. Death, what you were saying there was he was supposed to be the guy, right?
Exactly.
He was supposed to make it to the end. He was supposed to be the guy, and then Gunn did what he did, and he didn't get over with it. Like they did not push him. In fact, they were kind of mad at him that he did what he did to Dr. Death.
Yeah, and the whole thing is a lot of these guys weren't prepared for what was going on. Like he said, a few of them pulled hamstrings in the middle of this because they weren't used to.
Yeah.
Like when you're boxing, you have to move your feet a lot.
Right.
When you're boxing, like in wrestling, they do, but they're working together. This is two people. Now these guys weren't working together this time. They were working against each other. And in this way, when you're working against each other and it's not a work, it's an actual shoot. Something's going to happen, and if you're not used to moving and get yourself, you can tear a hamstring, a quad, tons of stuff.
Yeah.
So a lot of those guys were talking about how their legs, after they got hit once and it kind of buckled, how it pulled. And we've seen it happen to guys get knocked out in MMA and boxing, and their leg gets underneath them. Later, they find out that they've torn something in their leg, right, or their knee, because when they get hit and their knees buckle, and then they get to go stand back up. Sometimes they step a little hard, can pull something, get knocked down. It goes a little sideways. That stuff happens, and that's what was happening to these guys. It happened, to the Godfather. It happened to Steve Williams, Dr. Death.
Yep.
Same thing. He tore his hamstring. He was on one leg, and he wasn't a boxer. He was a wrestler.
Yep.
Now, really, but he was not a boxer. He wasn't used to, some guys take a punch here and there from a regular Joe, but these guys are all 200-plus pounders throwing heat, and yeah, they may not really know how to throw heat, but Bart was getting the best of them, and that he was the last guy they thought was going to win any of this.
Yeah. Well, so it went back, and they started to center more about Bart, right? So they said they're starting to center more on him about in this whole thing, and he says, "Hey, look, coming up." They're like, he even told them. He said, "Hey, look, I'll work with you guys." Basically saying, "I'll fall if you need me to. I'll fall if you need me to. I know you're trying to get him over. If you want me to fall, I will. Just I'll work with you guys. Just he just wanted a break too, right?" So, and they're like, it's whatever. No, you don't have to do that. They didn't believe it. They didn't believe he could do it, which I think deep down inside what that whether he got put over or not. I think at the end of the day, that kind of made him mad, which he did say it made him mad, but I think it started from the get-go, and that, he had offered to help him. They didn't help him, so it made him mad, so he went out there and he knocked out Dr. Death. He knocked him out. Then they went back into the locker room, and they were like, well, it's like they didn't know what to do from there, because they didn't think he was going to be able to do it. So then what do? So I kind of feel bad for Bart Gunn, because I feel like he's getting screwed in this whole thing.
No, he got screwed in the whole thing. I mean, and even when he docked out Bradshaw, it was Bradshaw came out thinking he was a lot tougher than he was, and he laid him out cold.
Oh yeah, he laid him out completely. I mean, it was God, that gave me a headache. looking at that shot he took where he got up and then he took another one. Oh man, God, I felt my brain shook a little when that happened. I was like, oh man, dude, that was just bad. And so he went, and then it's almost like they get mad at him and they're like, okay, well now you're gonna fight Butterbean. What?
Well, if you remember, they said they put him on the shelf for quite a few months. He was doing nothing. He was sitting at home.
Yeah.
Not doing anything because they didn't have nothing for him. Because they weren't even going to push him after he did all that.
Right. He did all that, does this thing, and he says, Russo calls him, well, we really don't know what to do with you. In the storyline. I just think that they might as well have just let him try. At that point, what do you got to lose? I mean, you already did this stupid event where you let all these wrestlers get in there and beat the crap out of you. You already did that. What do you got to lose at that point?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's the way I look at it. What do you from a business perspective, you're already there. You already got your superstars. This is just a spectacle inside of a spectacle. What do you got to lose at that point? You might as well just keep pushing him as far as you can push him and see where you can take it, because he may gain some bigger notoriety.
Well, that's how we think. But they were all about money, guys, and they didn't consider Bart money. They didn't consider him money, so they thought if he got whooped, big deal. He's just going to fall,
Yeah.
But then they asked him to do WrestleMania, and he was going to fight Butterbean. But they were doing, like they said, Vince did that as a punishment to him. Look, he's going to box Butterbean. One, he's not a boxer. He's a professional wrestler. He didn't train to fight, so he said, he didn't know how to really box when he fought the other one. So he went to train to box for a few months. I mean, that's like saying, hey, I'm almost 50 years old, and I just say, tomorrow I'm going to go back and start training again. I'm going to fight again. I'm going to fight this young guy that's getting ready to go to the UFC. He's going to kill me.
Yeah, and Butterbean himself is a spectacle, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the guy was a professional boxer, but we all remember the type of guys Butterbean used to fight. So, you know what I mean? It was, and some of those fights, to me, were kind of suspect. I'm not saying the guy couldn't hit hard, but there were some times where he'd be losing a fight, then all of a sudden he'd start dancing, and the other guy would just drop his hands for some weird reason and get hit in the face and get knocked out. It was weird. It was weird, but I would see things like that happen, and then but the guy could box. I mean, he knew what he knew how to box.
But he had been doing it for a while, and that's way more than Bart had a chance to.
Yeah, so then you got coming out. Bart comes out. He's been training, like you were talking about training. But I mean, you're not going to train a boxer to beat a boxer now. Like Butterbean said, if he would have maybe would have had a 50% chance had he just come out and brawled.
If he would have came out, but he tried to sit back and box.
But he tried to sit back and box, and dude, he got clocked. Man, he clocked that dude. Butterbean clocked him again, and I was like, God, man, this is horrible because he hit him hard, man.
Oh yeah,
he hit him hard. He fell, and his neck hit the rope, and I was like, oh God. I mean, he hit him hard, and I just, at that point, I felt bad for Bart Gunn. It was like, it was almost like to the saying, play stupid games, you win stupid prizes. You know what I mean? But he was just doing his job, right? He's employed by an organization. They're telling him, you got to do this. So he went and did it. And, at the time, I guess if you're him, you're thinking, I got to work, right?
Yeah, well, it destroyed his career. That was the end of it, pretty much.
Yeah.
I mean, he said he kind of went on to do some other things here and there, but it really was never the same. And nobody really wanted to give him another chance again.
He said he went to Japan. And,
yeah.
He did some stuff there, and then he tried some MMA and things like that. But let's face it, right? I think he fought Cabbage, didn't he? Isn't that what he said?
Yeah. He said he beat him quicker than Butterbean did.
And then then they tried to set up a fight with Butterbean, and they tried to get
but they wanted to give him a week's notice.
Yeah,
and he's like,
I don't think it was a week. I think it was like 4 days, and he was like, no. If I got to fight that guy, and you're gonna bill it as, some sort of a revenge type deal, I want to be able to do it right. And you know what, man? If I was him, I'd probably want to do the same thing because I'd want that back. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No. I completely understand.
I'd want that back.
So, and overall, the documentary's great. Vice is doing a great job on this dark side of the ring.
I love these things.
It's phenomenal. Man. Yeah. It kind of gives us a little chance to get behind the scenes and see what was going on, hear from people that were actually involved in it.
These guys,
go ahead.
I was just going to say, these guys go through so much. They put on shows. After a while, man, it starts going to their heads, and in good ways and bad ways, and it's just you see some of the slide. How some of these guys slide, and they start to slide mentally and physically, and it takes a toll on them. To where later on in life, even if it's not a severe injury, career ending, mentally, or just getting screwed overall in the business by in itself, so it's a tough game to be in, man.
Yeah. Well, what I got from a lot of this is that, one, they weren't too smart about having to put this together. They kind of threw it together as like at a spur of the moment type of thing, and then the other, to me, seems like they just basically screwed Bart Gunn and like he was kind of like a throwaway person. Like, oh yeah, you won this, but nobody cares.
Yeah,
we're not going to put that down in history of anything. We're going to have you get smashed by Butterbean at WrestleMania.
But another guy that stuck out to me in that particular documentary was Draws. Draws, man, I remember that guy, and I didn't even realize I completely forgotten about what happened to him. Which is a horrible thing to say, but I completely, I've seen so many wrestlers over the years, but I completely forgotten about that, man, when they replayed that, and I was like, oh my God, dude. When, it's one of those, I should have zagged when I should have zagged. Yeah, what I mean? I zagged when I should have zagged.
And the whole thing is the person I feel bad for, though, also besides Draws, is D'Lo Brown, man. He's got to live with it. It was a complete accident, yeah, and that probably haunts him every day. And he's had to deal with some really bad stuff anyway. A couple of other incidents that have happened to him.
Yeah.
And that's just a rough case. And draws, stuck in a wheelchair for the rest of his life, paralyzed, and that's another unfortunate incident. And I feel bad for him. I think, I like the guy as a character. He was fun to watch, and
Oh yeah, I loved him. He was a
and
good
it's
dude.
so sad to see what happened to him. But to take
Yeah.
away from all this is professional wrestling. You can get injured. It's it's the risk of the business.
It's like Jim
And-
Cornette said. I hate when people call it fake because these guys are actually, yeah, it's predetermined, but everything they're doing
Yeah.
to each other is real. I mean,
Yeah.
it's except for a few things, but a lot of all the bumps they're taking, man, just everything that they're doing to themselves. But then there's also the business side of the business where if they don't like you, no matter what you do and how you excel, you're never going to get over, and that's kind of a horrible thing. But I think that's why here lately I gravitate more towards the indie promotions because they seem to give more guys that you wouldn't see a chance. You know what I mean?
No, exactly. No, I completely agree. But I've been a big indie guy, and that's kind of what drew me back in to wrestling because the WWE kind of started to give me a little, kind of got plateau, and it kind of got a little boring to me, and it didn't seem like to be they were the same guys getting pushed all the time. There was never anything new happening. It was
Yeah.
the same stories over and over and over and over and over again, and that thing. But I take away from all this is that when you have an idea, it just needs to go through a lot more tests before you run something especially like that. It'd have been better off. It'd have been better off if it would have been more like a shoot wrestling match.
Well, you
And-
got to remember where they were getting their ideas. Remember what he was saying?
Yeah.
How they were,
From the
how
Jerry
they were
Springer
writing?
show.
They had the
Yeah.
They would watch the Jerry Springer show, and they had that playing while they were writing. While they were writing for the show, while they were writing for the WWE or WWF at the time. So
Yeah.
it was like, I
And
was
during
like,
the
I was
Attitude
like, that's
Era.
crazy. Yeah,
Yeah. So
that's how they birthed the Attitude Era.
yeah.
They
Jerry Springer.
Yeah.
But if you go back and you think about it, it was exactly just like Jerry Springer.
Yeah.
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 Well-
yeah. Dude, yeah. Dude, I could talk for another 20 minutes just about that. That's crazy.
Yeah. Well, we enjoyed this episode. I hope you enjoyed listening to what we had to say about it. If you like it, please hit the like button, subscribe. When you're here watching the videos, if you haven't subscribed yet, go ahead and give it a shot. We have a lot more other content besides just wrestling. We talk MMA, we talk music, we talk food, we talk getting drunk once.
I have
But-
puppets. Yeah.
Yes. So it was a great episode. We enjoyed it. We'll be doing another episode, the next one coming up down the road as well.
Absolutely.
I'm Lee,
I'm Fayaz.
and we're the Trauma Guys. And
Don't
we
forget
will
to
see you
subscribe.
soon.
We
Yeah.
love you guys. Thank you.